Let's come to an understanding. 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 I said, let's come to an understanding. 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 Let's come to an understanding.
Let's come to an understanding.
We are live. What's up, everybody?
Welcome back to the podcast. Sorry, go ahead there. No, give your full title. Give your full, because you got a new introduction. You got a new title, baby.
Oh, do I got a new title? I got a new title now.
Let them know. Tell them.
My name's Amish Patel, your host and 2020 Writers Guild of Canada Award winner.
We're in the award circle, baby. We're in the award circle.
Got a lot of good congrats. Got a lot of big congrats. A lot of big congrats.
Wow, and I'm Drew Picklyk, the lowly co-host. I'm going to demote myself, actually, in your presence.
Hey, man, we just did an application.
Co-host.
No, don't.
Yeah. No, this is big time. Writers Guild of Canada. Look at that.
Look at this mentorship. Look at this mentorship we're doing here. You're
I taught you well, yes.
I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to bring you in. No, I write, you read. That's it. Right. It's consistent.
How does it feel? How does it feel to win an award from the comfort of your own home?
It was great, man. No hassle. You don't have to go there.
You're like Marlon Brando sending the Native American woman up on stage, but
didn't even have to do that. Kermit the Frog. They had a little Kermit the Frog cartoon, like a thing from Muppet Show. There's these little graphics
on your behalf.
It was basically like Gavin Crawford was calling it from his house, and then they cut to a clip of like Kermit the Frog being like, like all excited.
Well, I've always said
it was 10 minutes, dude.
I've always said of all the Muppets, you're the most Kermity.
Yeah. I'm all Kermit, dude. Kermit's? Yeah, thank you. That's a compliment. That's a huge compliment.
You resonate with Kermit. You resonate with Kermit the most.
Yeah, Kermit's great, man. Kermit's a great guy. You know what I'm saying?
You're out here trying to get all those Miss Piggies. Look at you. Look at you.
No, the Miss Piggy's trying to get me, baby. They're trying to get me.
Miss Piggy's trying to get you. Okay. Oh, that's true. That is true.
She was on Kermit, eh? She was pretty wild on him.
She was on Kermit.
Yeah, that was a wild show.
It was on pretty hard.
Yeah, but they had that graphic. They had a bunch of so for the opening, they were when they were saying ladies and gentlemen, the Writers Guild of Canada ceremony, whatever. They had all these shots of old movies, crowds in old movies clapping. And they did that bit where it's all these crowds of clapping, and Gavin Crawford's like, okay, yeah, but it was in his condo. Oh no, it was in his dining room.
That's awesome.
Did some jokes off the top, and then just bing bang, winners only. Bing bang, done. Winners only. No, nobody else.
Well, we got a bit of a winner on the show today. We're doing. We really try out different formats for how we introduce the guests. This is going to be one of those ramble lead ups that we like to do, but with good reason, because we had to pour champagne. On the guy who just crossed the finish line right here.
Hey man.
Okay.
Hey, cut the award.
Trying to do some Formula One imagery there for my friends who will not be attending Formula One in Montreal this summer. Seemingly, maybe. Who knows? Maybe it's going on.
Okay, but let's bring right now in the waiting room. She's in the waiting room. Let's bring her on.
She's in the waiting room. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to bring on the acting president of the Canadian Association of Stand-Up Comedians, the president of CASC, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Sandra Battaglini.
Sandra! And where is Sandra Battaglini? There we go.
There she is. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
How's it going, Sandra?
How's it going?
Good. Well, we're feeling pretty good. We're in the winner's circle right now with a bunch of winners. Three winners right here.
Wow. Yeah.
Did everybody win?
Well,
I know. I heard Amish won. That's amazing.
Woo! Thank you.
Yeah, I won. Knowing Amish, I won an association. I won being a co-host with the guy who won a Canadian.
Hey man, a high tide raises all the boats. High tide raises all the boats. My award, it's everyone's award. My high tide, baby.
That's how I feel. And you just got a winning personality, Sandra. You're always winning,
Well,
so we're happy to have you.
Sandra's always winning, and Sandra, you always have that mentality of that good vibration mentality. I like that. I want to talk about that tonight.
Oh sure, let's do it.
Yeah. Do you find that people are getting harder into it right now because of what's going on with Corona?
Do I find out what? Sorry?
Like people are getting into more alternative medicines right now. I feel like I'm seeing more alternative, like some crystal healing stuff, a lot of meditation, a lot of like just alternative ways of doing stuff.
You know what, Amish? Actually, a lot of people have been ingesting Lysol. This is an alternative medicine that's actually taken off in the past week for some strange reason. I don't know.
Did you see that, Sandra? That Donald Trump was telling people to spray Lysol like in their mouth or something?
Who didn't see it? That's all everybody talked about.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
You know what I mean, it's just like the same news cycle.
Yeah. He knows how to play everyone, eh? I heard that he knows how to play all these like media outlets. I heard like half of them would be out of business right now without him. Like CNN and like maybe New York Times. I've seen stuff that was like they'd have no money. They make all their money off this maniac.
Who said that? He said that. Who said CNN and the New York Times would be out of business without Donald Trump?
They'd be done.
That's some bullshit that he says.
They wouldn't be out of business, but they've made like billions of dollars. They make a lot of money off of it because he keeps the news cycle sexy, dude. He's keeping it sexy.
It's a disgrace. I mean, you know, the guy is sick. It's just that, like, you know, if everybody they should just all decide not to show up when he does one of his press briefings, and Empire will just literally like it'll knock out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's like a bully.
Yeah, and he is, and then it's like it's the American deep state that's operating the whole thing. Like I just started reading this book. I've been interested in this idea for a little while, but it's like because it doesn't make sense what's going on there. It often doesn't make sense because you're like you know on the one hand you hear there's all these people who are so interested in and want to have a welfare state or socialized medicine, all of these things, and there's all this like momentum from certain politicians, but then there's always something that comes and like derails it, and it's this deep state. Do you guys familiar with this idea?
Yeah, like the CIA and the FBI and like permanent government workers will never actually leave, so they can actually keep the agenda going in perpetuity despite administrations.
I mean, that's what the DNC looks like. It's not. I don't think deep state refers to DNC, but it does seem like the DNC kind of did that twice now, where there was someone who they kind of like didn't give him a good chance. Internally, they like with Biden twice now, they kind of were like against him and they didn't want to follow his wishes kind of thing because they're politically and like financially bought out by these interests that are like, you got to get a Biden or a, like one of their people in. So it does, like, I understand the anxiety because that's like not even a conspiracy theory. That's just like out in the open, and it's true.
It's not a conspiracy. The deep state does finance both parties. Yeah.
And they need a guy like that, and it's not even such a like even think about military companies. They give them lobbying money. It's not even a deep state. It's like out in the open. You don't even have to call it corruption, bribery, nothing. They just call it lobbying. It's legalized, and they just do it out in the open.
Well, hold on. Sandra and myself are trying to do a little bit of lobbying in Ottawa, so let's not poo-poo lobbying, okay? We like a little bit of lobbying here.
Because it is a deep state because it's like, on the one hand, it's the public understands, it's the public facing government that, whatever. And then on the bottom, there's this like shadow government that operates everything covertly. You know what I mean? There's things like, like the Pentagon and a couple of other institutions who literally, go unmonitored.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you're right. It's not like it's hidden from, it can be seen in plain sight, but there's so much more there that's like, things like this guy, the book I'm reading right now, he's a specialist in the field. He's actually Canadian, and I think he's in his 80s or 90s now, but he says things like Iran-Contra and 9/11 and, JFK assassination, all deep events. He literally traces the deep state back to, Confederation.
The Confederation of the United States?
Yeah, that's interesting because and this is what they say about late capitalism, that like these rich kids are getting richer and richer with every generation, and then eventually like it's just not going to work anymore. They're going to have too much power maybe, or they're going to get things too easily.
They're gonna have too much power. I think we're there. I think.
No, yeah.
I think we've arrived.
Yeah, but it's building. It's building. I think it gets worse. It's always been like that. Like wasn't FDR, like wasn't his dad drug smuggler? Hazy on the facts, I know, but like it goes back to even like the Kennedy.
JFK's father was a bootlegger. Joe Kennedy was a bootlegger. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I'm pretty sure FDR goes back to some like weird British thing where like his dad was smuggling opium, and that's how they got all their money to pay for his presidential run. Like I mean, I see what you're saying, Sandra.
Well, his cousin was the president. Teddy Roosevelt was his cousin. He was the president before.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
But I mean that like capitalism is dead, and the United States is when Donald Trump became the president, there's no longer the United States of America. I mean, when you think of the term. Capitalism, it was so false and predicated on such like nothing that in 3 days it collapsed. It no longer, like, you look at what's happening right now, it's like we have this pandemic that was because of climate change. Everyone wants to go back, like, we got to go back to normal. Like, there will never be a normal again. And the attempts by this, cabal of people, whether, you can't always say whether it's like, it's all, premeditated, because some of these things are not necessarily premeditated. But the, where I lost my thought. Where the fuck was I? No, but I'm just saying that everything that it was predicated on is dead. So this virus comes, it's the earth speaking. There is no more capitalism.
Yes. Mother Earth on strike. I was saying before, like it's like Mother Earth is on. First, the teachers went on strike, and then Mother Earth was like, "You guys are fucking shit up. I'm going on. Shut it all down. Yeah. Everyone's staying home, and just stay home and love each other."
Mother Earth, all the way in Wuhan, China. Mother Earth saw the striking teachers in Kentucky and was like, "You know what? I'll be right there. I'll be right there."
Yes, we're all going on strike.
Give me a year and a half.
But it is a big part of like it is like a natural outcome of this capitalist system that basically, yeah, I agree with you. It's a lot of things that we don't count the expense of. Like, it's only profitable in capitalism. A lot of stuff is only profitable if you just take everything out of the earth for free. If you don't pay, like, really, animals are like slaves basically, but we're not going to really pay for them to have a good life or anything. But it's basically like a lot of capitalism doesn't. It takes a toll on the earth, and yeah. Basically, at some point, and I think it takes a toll on people too, because we're part of the earth, like David Suzuki says. We're the environment.
Yeah,
too.
what do you mean? Amish, most jobs are horrible. Most jobs. Me and Amish, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. It's like, how much do I have to pay you for it to not be slavery, right? Like, that was pretty much what we're trying to figure out here. Is like, is $7? Is that the cutoff? $7 and a quarter, and it's not slavery at that point.
I was, at the end of last year, I realized that, like, that the movement of, like, what CASC has been doing of comedy was part of this larger movement. You want to just introduce what CASC is a little bit? I said Canadian Association of Stand-Up Comedians, but do you want to explain a little bit more? Yeah, sure. CASC is an association that lobbies for comedians' rights. It is the Canadian Association of Stand-Up Comedians, which started out lobbying just for stand-ups, but now includes sketch, improv, and stand-up. But at the end of last year, I was like, I realized that our movement was part of this larger movement, because even though, like, to me, it was like the only thing that we need to focus on is the earth. That's our only concern right now, is to repair the earth. Everything else is secondary. Even comedy, obviously, but it's part of that same system that has extracted from the earth, that disregards the humanity, that took our comedy, like, it commercialized it, it capitalized it, and then all of a sudden we had this estranged relationship to this art that we did. And so people were like, all people were doing was like, oh, I got to get that thing, and I got to go do this, and I got to get that, and it's like, no, these things are not to get. These things are gifts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like, I read this great article in Harper's Magazine about poverty in the United States, and how and this, and it was talking about the relationship between labor and capital, and how capital says, labor, we're going to put a minimum value on you, i.e. the minimum wage, so that you don't starve to death, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then labor says, we're the only value. Without us, you don't have any capital. And then
exactly.
labor says, and then capital goes on to say, every time that they give you a gig, like, how when we do gigs, for X, Y, and Z people, like, the players in our industry, they make it appear, to be benevolent, to be an act of benevolence. Like when anybody asks you to do something, to perform comedy, and they're like, we're not going to pay you, or you have the potential to get something. That is false. Without us, there's no recording, there is no show, there's no festival.
Mm-hmm.
And the lie that we bought into, do you see the cloak of bullshit we were living under before? Now, all the secrets are out. So if we continue to buy into this business, we buy into this idea, then we are part of the problem. And we will go the way of the black snake, which I don't know if I've told you about that prophecy.
The black snake
Please
prophecy? That sounds amazing.
So it's like the indigenous people, they prophesied all of this. They said that a black snake would weave through North America, which is the pipelines. They didn't know it at the time. And that it would destroy all the land and the water and the people around it. And that your choice would be either to follow the black snake or go back to the red road, back to Mother Earth. And I say further that, America took this black snake and they weaved it around the planet with Hollywood at the helm to say, hey, everybody, look at us. Eh? Da, 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 da. And everyone got seduced. We all did. Okay. And then the other part of the prophecy too is that, it's an Anishinaabe prophecy that says that this, the seventh generation would all but be destroyed. We see this in our indigenous people, but that this eighth generation, this new generation, which we're all witnessing their strength, like their rise, that they would rise up, and that them and the settler community would come together to heal the planet. I mean, remember what preceded this COVID crisis was the blockades. They were listening, your ancestors were speaking.
Whoa.
Shut the country down.
Whoa.
The country had to shut down.
If we had listened to them, no COVID.
Well,
if we had goddamn listened to them, no COVID.
Of course.
Sandra, this is what I wanted to get into. This is great.
The indigenous people have been telling the fishing industry for decades, stop fishing the salmon.
Yeah.
He says, oh yeah, we're always in touch with the indigenous people. And now, I don't know if you know this, but like how the salmon populations are just full of lice. Okay.
Lice?
Yeah.
Like the ones on dogs, they can live on on salmon too?
Yeah.
There's fish lice. I didn't even know that.
It's just rampant. So the people, like they've told them, like, stop, this is decades now. Stop fishing salmon. Stop it.
Yeah.
They haven't stopped it. So do you see what happens? You're like, it's all of it. It's like, but the beauty is, it's like.
I got some coho in the fridge, so you're freaking me out a little bit here, Sandra. I gotta be honest.
Some coho?
I got some coho salmon. I'm gonna toss
some coho salmon.
I'm gonna be tossing that.
I didn't get your meat reference.
I'm gonna get the wild caught. Oh yeah, well Misha's a vegetarian,
I didn't even know what coho means. No, I've been vegetarian my whole life. It's interesting. But Sandra, how are we going to convince people? Isn't it a little bit our own faults? Because we want that good, cheap stuff. We all want good, cheap. Like we want everything. Like just go to Walmart. Hey, enslave a kid. I want this shirt for $10 or whatever it is.
You can follow the black snake. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Go back to the Mother Earth. If you follow the black snake, like, which is what Donald Trump represents and all that group of people, the deep state, whoever the fuck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, but I'm saying, Sandra, by participating in this capitalist economy, are we not part of it too? Don't we have to stop doing stuff?
Of course, that's what I mean, of course. But now's the time to change. I'm saying you can't, look, we're part of a society that is been running on this capitalist system. So unless you go retreat to the woods, you're going to be part of it. But now's the time where it's shifting. You see that when you look at the Green New Deal, right? The one that the progressives penned in the Democratic Party. The way they prescribe this deal is literally what's happening. because we're going from this corporate fascism to this shared economy. That's where we're going. So, think everything like, they have this whole thing in the Green New Deal. It's not as though capitalism won't exist but it's a shared economy, so that not three people run the whole fucking thing. You know what I mean? And that I love what they talk about, because it's actually happening. So that, when the Green New Deal happens, which is already starting, and it wasn't like they didn't bring it in. They've been lobbying. They're like, we need to make this deal happen.
Were they kind of forced to take it by AOC? Is that what happened with that? I don't know exactly, but
they haven't taken it. It hasn't been adopted as policy. It's a proposal in Congress.
Yeah. It's a proposal,
and it won't get passed. It won't get passed as long as Mitch McConnell's the Senate Majority Leader. For guarantee that.
What I'm saying is that the policies are actually happening. They're being put into place by accident because of COVID.
Oh wow, really? So there's
So what's kind of come to light with the COVID-19 crisis is that especially now that you have like conservative governments in the UK, neoliberal government in Canada, conservative governments in the States, you're seeing that the government has to come in, and it does actually have to provide financing and support for the country and its infrastructure and its businesses and its people, like it's been intended to. And it's kind of, to your point, Sandra, pulling the Scooby-Doo style, pulling the mask off and showing that it was government all along that props up society, where for years it's been trying to privatize and kind of cordon off the power into corporations and smaller organizations than the common good itself, the commons, the public sector. So
I've been saying COVID's a backdoor to communism, and by communism I just mean more socialist policies. I think we're going to come out of this. UBI is going to feel more real, closer. I don't know exactly what's in the Green New Deal, but definitely I think UBI, they're going to have some good healthcare reforms coming out of this. They need.
The thing is, but hold on. I don't know if you're going to see a full new Green New Deal unless you have a change in administration, though, in the United States. Okay. Because right now, a lot of the traditional industries are on the ropes necessarily. Like the oil and gas industry, especially in this country, it's down the toilet, right? Like they're struggling in Alberta to keep anything up. The plane and travel industry is down the tank too.
Yeah, they're just gonna have to live on government. Yeah,
and one of the concerns is everything just gonna get consolidated? You know what I mean? Because if all these businesses go down, right, does that leave one of the surviving businesses to say, all right, we're gonna snatch all you guys up at a reduced cost, and then now there's less consumer choice, and now there's also less ability for people to, as a worker, leave one airline and go to another if you don't like the conditions, and they have to kind of keep up their end of the bargain.
It's all such bull. Do you see how fake capitalism is? It's like, I don't give a fuck if I want to fly somewhere, I'd rather the government operate it. I'd rather it's a crown corporation. If I got to go from A to B, I don't get what's consumer choice? It's confusion and distraction is what it is. Because then all the time you're spending trying to choose something when you're trying to book things. No, it's all just a waste.
That's very interesting. Buses are municipal run. I wonder if it can be expanded because England has an incredible transportation system. I don't see why they can't just add airplanes to that. Because they got everything else. They do the subway, they do the bus, they do the trains all together. It's incredible. You go on that London subway, you feel like a loser as a Canadian. I went there. They had guys just watching us. They're just like, you all right? They had gloves on. They're like, you all right? Where do you want to go? They had helpers at every station, every 10 meters.
They have those guys on the weekends in the TTC with the penny, with the eye, the information eye on the center of the penny.
Okay, sometimes I do see that.
They'll tell you where to get a transfer. They'll say, where do I get a transfer? It says over there.
But I'm just saying, Sandra, you might be onto something here. Because, England can run their subway system so incredibly. Maybe they could take over the airplane because they're always bailing out the airplane companies for sure.
You want public airlines. You want public airlines.
I think public airlines is a thing. I think Air India was maybe.
I'm pretty sure that Air Canada, when it first started, was heavily subsidized by the government. A lot of those companies were Because to get the airlines off the ground, they needed a lot of money, right?
Crown corporation, you think? I wonder.
I don't know if it's a crown corporation, but you get a lot of government subsidies and you get a lot of like
they get so much government money. Yeah,
to get started.
And these same people are like, hey, I believe in capitalism, free market, I want whatever. And then as soon as they go bankrupt, they're like, I need the government to just give me money right now, please give me money. Like it's always the same thing.
They only say that they believe in free market and that they're against abortion so that they can get their own interests passed. But the free market is the only people that the free market is for are the 99%. Because the government, it's like it's socialized for the rich, because they're the ones that get all the benefits. When people talk about like, Hollywood and like going to the States to pursue their careers and all of this other shit because there's opportunity, right? But that opportunity is based on mostly thievery and enslavement of multiple entities and people around the planet. You can't finance an industry and all those industries like they do, just because like, where does this fucking money come from? You know what I mean? So they steal resources, they steal people, they steal all sorts of things to finance this business. And the reason why they get all that, there's all that money is because of this deregulation of the government that allows these industries to operate the way they do. But you see now in the end, like all of this stuff is going to change. Like, even like if you're talking about the airline industry, if you're talking about, just about anything, people are not going to be able to fly as much anymore. Look at, like, my sister told me that we'll be able to go fly to Italy in May of 2021. We'll see.
Yeah,
but you think I don't want to fucking fly? You know how much of a pain in the ass it's going to be to fly now? To me, I want to see these zero emissions fleets. If you want to go to Europe, you take a fucking boat, okay? Do you remember like in the old days when they'd like see you in a fortnight? What is a fortnight? 2 weeks. Because by the time it took you to take a fucking train somewhere, it was 2 weeks. You know what I mean? You want to go to Europe, you're going to go for a month and a half. Before it became all this, like, especially in the US, I got to fly to Delaware, I got to fly to Washington, I got to, one day I got to fly here the next day. First of all, we're seeing that we can do most of our business, not most of it, but a lot of it online.
Not stand-up comedy, for example.
Well,
yeah, a lot of it you can do online, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like they were talking.
I see what you're saying.
Like they were talking about on the CBC, like, and they already started doing it. That the way that cities are going to completely change because especially in New York, what you see is that COVID attacked, like, Bronx is the epicenter. So it's all class. It's people who work in the service industry who need to take transit. They live far from their job. So the idea is that if people live where they can walk or bike to work, then their exposure is limited, is like reduced. And, they don't have to travel so far, and that, it's going to, and that people will, in Milan, they just did it too. And they're starting to do it in Toronto, that pedestrian, like, because, you want to limit the closeness of people, pedestrian walkways are going to overpower the streets. Yeah, and they've already. I just read my.
That's so Europe. That's so European. When you go and they're like, they just have these bike lanes, and the bike lane is like more traffic than the car lane. And then they have these bike parking lots in Amsterdam. It's insane. There's no way you can get your bike back out of those things. It's like 5,000 bikes, and then you go a block, and then there's like another 5,000 bikes. They're all just jammed in. Everyone rides their bike over there. And that's how you're supposed to live. You'll be happier too. That's the crazy thing, is that you'll be happier if you're not such a materialist and you actually go back to and look for that sense of community and hang out with people. I think one of the other things is going to happen is like travel and then house size maybe. Like I think right now, I don't know if everyone gets to have this giant house anymore, because our economy, it's going to take so long for our economy to come back to what it was before. That like this generation, I don't see how anyone's going to own a house. I think we got to go into these like smaller.
Well, it was already looking that way, to be honest. I mean, I don't know anyone who's buying a house. I'm always shocked I'm shocked when someone has a car, let alone a house.
I own a house. Like the house I have, I own it. But like a lot of that was because of jobs I did before I was a comedian. But like,
Right.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford this now. And
Right. When did you buy your house? What year was it?
It'll be 8 years this May.
Oh, and you rent it out, right? You have like rental people.
Sometimes.
So yeah, because I think we came to a party one time at your place. Was that your place? No.
Yeah.
Remember we had that?
Was it the pizza party I had?
Yeah, pizza party. Yeah.
But
That's
I
a good
also
party.
had a condo before that, so that helped me buy this place. But I could never buy this now.
Right. It gave you some equity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was able to buy that other place because, you know, I was working in marketing and advertising for a while, and I mean, my dad helped me too. I'm not gonna lie about that, but yeah, no, who can? That's the thing, though. Even this idea of ownership. I mean, do we really own this land? Is this land to be owned? So
right. I mean, well, it's kind of like a whole. There's a couple things, you know. It's like, do you want to change the system that you're in, or do you want a whole new system? And you know, a whole new system. But my thing is like, how do you galvanize the support behind that? You know, because we can all be on board, and we can get like at least probably 100,000 people with us on board. But is that enough?
No, but the opposite side has so much like vitriol to these ideas.
I think it's
like,
not
I'm
even the
still
opposite
seeing
side
people
having vitriol. I think it's just pure apathy. I think that too many people are checked out.
Okay, there's apathy in the middle, and then on the other side, there's people that are like, oh, if communism comes, then we're all going to be in gulags, we're going to kill each other. Like, there's people on the right-wing side that are super scared of left-wing ideas, that are super. I mean, that's why Bernie Sanders couldn't win. Like, what was so crazy about him? I mean, he just wouldn't go along with like all that corporatism you were talking about earlier, all that like just kind of giving into corporations, buying them out, and basically giving them money to get their support in passing laws.
He couldn't win because the deep state doesn't want him to win, but the people wanted him to win. The party, the Democratic Party, didn't want him to win. Like he could have. Like here's the thing: when we're I wanted to say a few things, but like when Trump, winning an election, or this election that's going to happen, or like when you're talking about like the system changing, and how could it happen in the United States? The United States is going to separate very soon. It's not going to be
wow.
For sure.
Sandra.
There's not going to be a civil war very soon? Please.
Hey man, China's been on top like 3 times, and they've had so many civil wars. They've had so many of those. Like they're like they've had their internal wars have been some of the bloodiest wars in history. So America's a new country. It actually makes a lot of sense historically. Like for them to stay united forever. Like why not? Why wouldn't they have a civil war? They've had one before.
I don't see it.
I couldn't, but for me, I think it'd be really interesting. Like, if there was a civil war in the States, which, like, I hope there isn't, but
I hope not.
Like,
it's going to get ugly.
What does it look like at this point, though? Because it's not like it was with the civil war they had in the 1800s, right? It's not going to be on purely, geographical lines based off of like, slavery is allowed past here and these are free states over here. Like, it's going to be.
I think Texas
so much
could go
more fractured and
yeah, it's gonna be fractured.
It's gonna be weird because you're gonna have like Republican Trump supporters in Brooklyn. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and the rest of the cities against you.
I think certain states are gonna separate, or maybe 2 or 3 states will get together and be like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna leave if you don't do whatever. Like I think because has Florida ever talked about this? Or is that just on Grand Theft Auto? Because I remember when you play Grand Theft Auto, the video game, they have this radio show on it. It's so funny. And they have this call-in radio show where this guy's like, I'm going to separate Florida. I'm going to put a hoe down and cut it right out of America. We're going to be our own country. There's like a guy like campaigning for this.
That's a video game. That
is a video game joke maybe. I don't know. But I can just see like America's wild, man. I think one state could be like, I'm going to go. I'm just watching the Waco series right now. And even in that, like that Wild Wild Country, the guy does the same thing. They just make their own cities inside of America. And then these militias come in. So I don't think their civil war is going to be as clean as like North versus South. It's going to be like a state wants to go and then 2 or 3 militias are on their side. And then these militias don't like them,
And it didn't make really big news. But a couple of weeks ago, the governor of California basically declared, I mean, I guess technically kind of a civil war when he said that the state was not going to be following the federal COVID plan.
The federal guidance?
Well, California said that?
Gavin Newsom's the governor. Yeah,
wow.
They claim themselves a nation state. I mean, you know what I mean?
well, no, but the states, but each state has its own constitution and their own rights, right? So for things like that, as Trump was saying, he's like, I'm going to say if there's a full shutdown or not. Technically, that's unconstitutional for him to do that because there's federal provisions and then there's state provisions. So telling everyone to stay inside is a governor's responsibility. It's not up to the president whether or not.
But do you see, though, that because they have this person there, and I mean, at the same time, too, I want to say, like, I don't give a fuck. The United States, like, why do we focus on these people?
They're the empire.
We're in their empire, Sandra. What they do, we're going along with them, and this is caused by them, kind of. You know?
But it's not. Like, let's not follow the black snake. That's what they are. It's our country. We have a great country. Look at what we're doing here. Focus on it. This is why Canada, like, this is why we weren't supported as artists, because we let the United States, like, they fucked us, man. They fucked us hard. So why do we pay attention to what these people are talking about? It's the black snake. Go back to the earth. Go back. Listen to our indigenous people. Because when you guys were saying too many people are apathetic, how would we galvanize people? That is not, we don't have to worry about that because it looks as though, and it's galvanizing itself. Whether people will be on board, it doesn't matter because it'll be forced that way. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, you know, you're saying Mother Earth, we made the earth sick with our garbage and now we're sick.
Exactly.
It's like the mother who's been telling the kids to clean up and they're like, yeah, Ma, we'll get to it. And then you're right. She's like, I'm going to bed and you guys are grounded. And it's like, when all these people want to go back to normal, you just try, she's going to fuck you up. So whether you don't, like, we don't need to worry about the galvanizing of people because the earth is doing it. So either we get on board with the earth or we will be killed because, you know, you read some.
That's in line with Taoist philosophy. That's very that's very wise because we can't control everyone. We can control our life and and then in living correctly in the Tao, as they say, then people will see us and will be an example. And that's all you need. I mean, it's, you know, it'll snowball. But I mean, that's it because that's all you can do really. You can't change so much, but if you change yourself, it'll send out that, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's more to the point of here's my whole thing. I personally feel like if you want people to, like, you know, eat less meat or drive less or shop less and not participate in it, you're kind of fighting a losing battle. However, I think that you're right when you're saying that we're being forced to change because there's a tipping point, right? There's an elasticity to this where it can't pull any further, and it's going to have to contract. So we might be seeing that. We might be on the brink of some really, really hard times in terms of what we're able to produce. I mean, right now, currently in East Africa, they're having like some of the worst droughts, not droughts, but locusts. Plagues of locusts are going all over East Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're really worried about food insecurity coming to that region again, which was, I remember, like, well, I don't remember, but I've seen things from the 80s.
My roommate was saying that in China, they're cracking down on Uyghurs right now, too.
They've been cracking down on Uyghurs in China.
No. Since COVID started, they did a double. They did hey, no one's looking, double it up. My roommate was telling me. I got to look into the story for next time. But a lot of that's happening right now. There are, like, added on. I mean, it's like when I first saw the jailbreaks. Because one of the first things that happened after COVID started is there's a couple of big jailbreaks in Brazil and Italy where people were just like, they were told, like, we're not going to let you see your family. And the jails were like, fuck you, we're rioting. And that's it. And then a bunch of people escaped. And it was like, it's almost like one problem can cause, like, other stuff to tip, you know? It's like a tipping point kind of thing.
The president of Brazil, we got to talk about him. Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, you think Trump is doing, like, a
He's wild, that guy. The Brazil guy's wild,
He's out here shaking hands. They said he had it. They said he probably had it. And he put his finger on the media to be like, shut up. Shut up! I don't have it.
That guy got stabbed in a crowd in front of everyone, and he survived that, and that's it, dude.
Well, his son apparently told Fox News. This is coming from Glenn Greenwald, the great journalist Glenn Greenwald, who lives in Brazil and writes for The Intercept. Apparently, Jair Bolsonaro's son called Fox News and was like, my dad has the COVID, right?
Wow.
And then Fox News put out a report. Jair Bolsonaro, this just in, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has COVID. This got back to Bolsonaro. He's like, I don't want anybody thinking I'm no bitch, right? So he's like, told his son, retract that. And he's saying the media's lying, da-da-da-da-da. And ever since then, he's been totally like, this thing is a myth. Don't worry about it. Go on. Go live your lives. Yeah.
Remember when I got stabbed in front of you all and I survived that? I'm not getting COVID. Yeah, he's hard.
The Dr. Fauci of Brazil, he fired the Dr. Fauci of Brazil, right? So he fires Brazilian Fauci, okay? And then, take this in. After he does that, a bunch of people in his cabinet are like, all right, we're walking. And they leave. So now they're saying his electability chances next time around are not looking too hot because his base is starting to erode a bit.
Whoa.
Meanwhile, Buddy's out in the street shaking hands, double kissing, saying, he's like, he's telling people to go against the governors. So he's doing similar to what Trump was doing when Trump was being like,
he's like, hey man, don't destroy the economy. Get out there, be a community or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of that in America.
Here's the thing. Here's a really dangerous thing that Trump did last week. And you know what? We say a lot of bad things about Trump. But one thing I will want to say, all his comedians, he'd be a great improv partner. Can we deny that, huh? He's a great improviser.
He's wild. The
man's quick on his feet. It's a masterclass.
He's delivering stand-up comedy when he does. He's
doing stand-up. He's basically doing stand-up. He's doing the same jokes.
So funny, the shit he says.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
It is.
One really dangerous thing he did last week, I would say, was when you had all the statewide protests, where you had protests in Minnesota and you had protests in Virginia and you had protests in Michigan. He's tweeting out, "Liberate Michigan, liberate Minnesota, liberate Virginia," like pretty much calling for insurrection of the elected governors.
What?
You see how the country will split? Or there'll be
they're wild, man.
There'll be people, but I mean, who are these people? That's what else I want to know. Like the people who's fighting? Like it's people like accepting Medicaid. Like who are the Trump supporters? What's the average age?
I don't know.
I don't know. Are militias big in America? Like, aren't militias like a thing?
Are the baby boomers like ready to take on the millennials? That's really what it's going to look like.
That's what it's going to look like, eh?
You're going to have a guy on dialysis trying to shoot me. Good luck.
Yeah. Sandra, it cuts us off at 40 minutes. So
we're going to call you back.
We're going to call you right back. What's up, everybody? We're back. Second half of the episode. We're getting into some wild theories.
I was just watching a CBC piece on like the nurses at Markham Stouffville, and anyways, it was good you called. It was sad because it's just like she's talking about how before people die, their family can't be there. So sad.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, that's rough, man. Terrible. Every time I think about that, I'm just like, oh, that would be so sad.
Like they just call they have an iPad and oh my God, I know, it's just terrible.
It's a lot. I mean, they'd let you look at them behind a window, no?
You can't go to the hospital.
No, you can't go there.
You just can't go there. Fuck.
They don't want you hanging out at the hospital. They don't want you like being like, well, can I get some lunch? I'm just waiting around.
No. Just to see a dying family member, but I guess not. No, it's pandemic time.
The pandemic. No.
And that's it. Wow, man, times have changed. It is. That's why it is like getting into weird. I'm hearing a lot of weird. I'm having like a lot of weird timeline. Like imaginations.
What do you guys think of the news today that Quebec is going to start letting younger kids go back to the schools in about 2 weeks' time?
Wow, 2 weeks.
You think we're there?
No,
I don't think so.
I think there was an outbreak in BC today. Did you hear that?
A larger outbreak in BC?
That's what I thought I saw. It was like I thought I saw that, and then I wasn't able to look at it. Let me.
Man, we've been flattening our curve. Quebec's going to ruin it. So Quebec province-wide, they want to send kids back in 2 weeks. That's too early, man. That's wild. That's like Trump timelines. If they do it, oh, come on.
I know, like the beaches were packed in California.
What?
Well, they're saying May 1st. May 1st, they want to have some of the states in the U.S. are going to. That's Friday, right?
Whoa.
Some of the states are going to start, rolling back the restrictions. Then that's ahead of Fauci.
That's ahead of Fauci. What's Fauci saying? When does Fauci say we go back?
I think Fauci's. You know what? I haven't heard from Fauci in a while. I feel like Fauci's been sidelined a little bit.
Yeah, I think Trump doesn't like him. I think Trump doesn't like that he has to correct Trump sometimes because Trump will just go wild, talk some shit, and then Fauci will be like, no, I didn't back that up. He just went off on his own. He's had to do that a couple of times, right?
And by the way, I think Fauci would be a horrible improv partner, by the way, because he's not yes-anding.
He's not really bad, yes-anding.
He's a really bad yes-ander.
he's a no, I never said that. He's a no, I never said that. No, I never agreed to that. That's what he's doing all the time. Man, what a weird president. He's crazy. He's like that guy he's like that movie. Have you guys seen that movie where Terry Crews is the president?
Idiocracy.
It's so good. And he's just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
it's
yeah, I don't know.
It's all just a fallacy, anyways.
What do we think of this? Kim Jong-un, AWOL.
Kim
Can't
Jong-un.
find him. They're saying his sister might be taken up as the new supreme leader. Are we ready? That's too much change for me.
No. We need this.
That's too much change. No, I'm sorry.
10 times smarter than
pandemic and global shutdown, that's one thing, all right? But you take my supreme leader away from me at a time like this, I'm going to lose
Kim Jong-un is
right?
done.
I'm dyeing my hair purple. I'm going to have a crisis.
Hey,
I'm going to dye my hair purple.
Get ready for a female run.
I'm this close.
Wow, you are such a misogynist. It's time for a female leader. It's time we had a female dictator, okay? You watch it. We're going to have a female dictator of North Korea, and I think it's going to be great. I think she's I hope that she's, like, you can tell she's way smarter than him.
I like that she's a boss bitch. She is a bit of a boss bitch. Yeah.
She's really running shit. She does so much. Like, you can tell she's smart. I worry about her, though, because they might kill her. You know, because he already killed his cousin or, like, some other kid.
But if he's dead, who's he going to kill? But Sandra,
let's hope he's dead.
Think? Sandra, how do you feel?
I mean, I don't, like, I didn't really hear. I only heard a little bit today. So they can't find them?
They're saying, so South Korea monitors him, right? Because he keeps tabs. He likes to know where he's at. And they say that they don't know where he.
It's just so shady when you're neighbors with a country and they're like, "Hey, we keep tabs on your president. Haven't seen him in a while." How is that okay? Like,
it's kind of like if you lived across the street from a peeping Tom and he was like, "You're not showering? Are you going through a bit of a funk? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
I've been watching your bathroom and nothing, no action.
nothing, exactly. Yeah. Are you okay? You feeling a little down? Like, that's weird, man. For a neighboring country to watch you like that. That's
not really. Not if you're hostile. If you have a hostile relationship with your neighboring country, you're going to want to keep those tabs.
I thought it was a Cold War, but I guess they are militarized. They have a militarized zone in between them. They're just watching each other. How sad that North Korea ended up like that. And South Korea is taken over. Yeah. They're the new Japan. Japan's done. South Korea is the new. They got Samsung. They got all the shit.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. South Korea, the new Japan.
South Korea is taking it, man, with the K-pop, with the electronics, with everything. And Japan.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say about him. I just heard today a little bit of this shit. I don't know. Like, maybe he went underground. He's in a bunker.
Do you think he has COVID?
Maybe he had a panic attack. No COVID for him. I can't imagine. Dude, in North Korea, they just kill you if you have COVID. Dead.
But if you're the supreme leader, you can't touch the supreme. He's supreme.
No, they're not going to kill him. But I don't think anyone with it got anywhere near him.
Maybe they murdered him because they can't find him. Somebody murdered him.
His sister could have murdered him, and I hope that's what happened. I hope his sister planned a little.
Okay, so you're a bit of an optimist.
I hope so, because the sister looks smart. The sister looks like she can free up the country, I think.
You're gonna get the Seth Rogen treatment on us, okay? You're saying all this stuff, talking spicy about your wishing death upon the Supreme Leader.
I do not wish death upon him. I'm only.
We're gonna get hacked. We're gonna get hacked like Sony.
Oh God! No disrespect. Kim Jong-un. I wish you the best.
Yeah, a little respect for the Supreme Leader.
He is the Supreme. He is God. Like, they teach in their school that he's God.
Yeah.
Maybe he's hiding and he's watching us tonight. Like, oh, I heard people are talking about me. Maybe he just gets signals and
he's like,
he's probably binging Tiger King and he doesn't want anyone to know.
Yep.
I haven't even seen Tiger King. I started and I was like, I can't stomach this.
Yeah.
This shit.
A lot of people were like, it's too trash, not doing it. A lot of people I know were like, I'm not, why are you, they were mad at me for watching
half.
I went up to the talk show at the end. I was like, I don't need a talk show, but I thought it was pretty entertaining. It was fun. It was like a comedy, like a characters. It was like a mockumentary almost. Like they're all these like silly characters and they're all like fighting with each other. It's pretty entertaining.
I only watch recap shows with Andy Cohen. If Andy Cohen's not hosting it, I don't want to watch it. That's my policy.
Which recap circuit is he on? Which recap show is he doing?
The Real Housewives.
He's doing Real Housewives.
He created the Real Housewives. They'd be nothing without him. They'd be nowhere without Andy Cohen.
Wow.
The pride of St. Louis.
So you're saying he does a talk show after Real Housewives? No, he doesn't.
He does. He has 2 shows. He has a show called. I love that you're getting me to reveal all my Andy Cohen trivia.
That's great.
Watch What Happens live, and then he does the.
He's like a TV mogul, eh?
Yeah, he runs like the Bravo channel.
Wow, that's fun, dude. That's so cool that an executive puts himself in the show. That's pretty badass. I like it.
Andy Cohen is.
He also does New Year's with Anderson Cooper.
Oh, this guy.
Ooh, Andy Cohen.
By the way, I love CNN has the gayest New Year out there, meaning the most like visible gay representation in a New Year's Eve show. It's amazing. They got Don Lemon out in New Orleans every year making out with his husband. You got Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen hanging out, having a ball. I mean, I love it. I love it. It's a great New Year's event every year.
Is Anderson Cooper dating or married to Cohen?
No, they're just buddies. They're boys.
They're boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy's powerful, man. You can tell. He's like just a smart guy. He knows how to make a good show. I gotta start watching his stuff.
Listen, if we don't get picked up by Kim Jong-un, Andy Cohen, if you're listening, the podcast would love to be a part of the Real Housewives family.
Yeah,
if you can make that happen, we're here for it.
We can talk Real Housewives trivia. I'll watch it. I heard it's good.
So before COVID, were you guys doing it like this, or were you guys together?
No, in person.
No, we go to Amish's apartment.
But we did one like this, 2 like this. This guy was in New York and L.A.
No, just from L.A.
L.A. from
Los Angeles.
This guy was in Los Angeles.
Oh, very. That gives it clout.
You think we'll ever be able to go to Los Angeles?
I was in the Hollywood Hills at the time too.
How many years before we can go to Los Angeles? You guys think? You think
not the two, but just
he's tuned. It's okay. That's great, dude. He goes to New York a lot too. Montreal, New York, LA. This guy's an international guy. New York Times subscription.
Well, I mean, the borders are going to be shut down for a long while.
Oh yeah. Borders are going to be shut down, at least for a year, right? Like we can't go to LA again. We just have to make our own industry over here.
Of course.
We just applied for all these CBC grants.
Do you understand what happened in our country? We got, and what happens, what happened in a lot of places, but here was like, we were so beaten down by this media industry or whatever you want to call it here. And it's mostly because of the United States. The United States really fucked us hard. So instead of people fighting for it and bringing it up and talking about it, they didn't want to because they didn't want to not work. That's what I'm seeing firsthand in CASC. I've seen it for years. People leave it for years now. It's been 3 years, but comics still don't want. It's difficult for people to. It's hard to get people involved in our organization. We need help. We desperately need a lot of help. But the comics are like, well, I mean, I don't know, but a lot of it is people don't want to be seen to be in opposition to the industry, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to go to the U.S., and then look at what happens during the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
People in the U.S. have no protection. So you buy a visa, you go buy a green card for $20,000 in a country that does not.
Oh my God, they can't go for 5-10 years now. It's useless.
Do you understand this? Do you understand
Who knows about
Yeah,
that?
and also, Sandra, it's so crazy to me how these guys are terrified. Like, I remember hearing, someone was telling me a story about someone, I think at Yuck Yucks, like some terrible thing, like just like something so dumb and whatever. And I'm like, and they told me, and then I was like, oh my God, I want to talk about that on my podcast. And they're like, no, don't tell anyone. It's like, why do you care?
I don't know.
I could have said I heard it from 10 different people. Like, it was the kind of story I could have said I heard it from somewhere else. But they were just like, oh no, don't say anything. It's Yuck Yucks. I'm like, buddy, they, like, what?
It's the same thing as Sandra was saying before, though. They have a monopoly, right? There's a monopoly on like live comedy at a professional level nationwide in this country. Like,
I guess so.
it's the independents. Like, we lost the comedy mix last year, right? So if you went to Vancouver, that would have been your one, option outside of Yuck Yucks to be a working comic and
Yeah,
make money for the weekend.
and yet in Montreal, in Quebec, sorry, because they have a union, they have this industry where people just make money as comics over there. It's insane. What is happening with that? I just don't understand.
Hey Sandra, I wanted to ask you, is there a francophone component to CASC?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
What is it? What's it entail?
Well, we have ambassadors in all the provinces and regions in the country. So right now, yeah, we have 2 ambassadors, Jerome Cleveau and Derek Seguin. But we've also we're associated with l'École Internationale de l'Humour. And,
Okay.
We're just
Wow.
building more alliances. Obviously, like the stronger presence we have, all over the country, especially, French, English, it's stronger for us for sure.
Of course, they have this huge industry. So is that the difference, Sandra? Is the fact that they unionized, is that why they have this industry, or is it other factors? Would you say more than that?
Well, they don't have a union. Like they don't have a union. They have
Oh, no?
They have like an association professionnelle de l'humour. They do have associations. The thing, you know why they are what they are? Because Quebec was obviously always very protective of their culture, but Hollywood didn't care. They didn't care because they spoke French.
Yeah.
They monopolized English Canada because we spoke English and we sounded like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so powerful that they just quashed. I mean, I've been obviously the last 2-3 years a student of all this Canadian media, and that very few people even know about. And think about the fact that no one ever spoke up before, really, until me, and then we formed an association, started bringing these issues up, and like they'd never been brought up before. So it's like, and even from the actor's point of view, like I remember saying to ACTRA, like maybe a year or so ago, I'm like, I know that you guys lobby because I see this now, but I never heard about it before. And they're like, yeah, because actors don't want to speak up. So the whole industry has been buying. You understand what happens with like even just actors and artists. We bought into the lie. We got seduced by the black snake because we said, I will do whatever it takes to be famous, including not speaking the truth if I am being taken advantage of, if I'm being exploited. Okay? Nobody should take that shit away from you. Yeah, it can be fucking lonely. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean? But it's like now, sorry, I just Facebook. It's important. Drew obviously would know about this, but it's like, especially what's happening right now, labor movements are going to explode. They're already exploding. It's going to explode.
Yeah.
So comedians now need to speak up, stand up for themselves. Because are people going to go back then and accept shitty gigs from festivals and from like whatever, the different, like, are we gonna put up with it? Because this is the thing. We stayed quiet we believed if we stayed quiet, we'd have work. And you know what happened? It all disappeared. The industry disappeared.
Yeah.
It almost disappeared. It's the same thing with the climate. It's like, people are so in denial that like they're gonna. I said this before COVID. I'm like, one day they're gonna open the front door and the fire is at the front door, and they're like, holy fuck, what didn't I do? Okay.
Right.
So there's nothing left to get. Like, I'm not saying, look, all of us want to create. It's important that we, like, obviously it's what we do, but like capital is just what's there because of us. So we shouldn't be enslaved by it. They need to follow us, and we make the fucking rules, not the other way around. Okay? That's what got fucked up. That's what got fucked up.
Right, and that's why you need to have some actual solidarity amongst comics who are working and like at the clubs and stuff like that to say, we're not going to work for less than this. Because I know in the past, people told me there had been efforts in the past to kind of do a comics union at Yuck Yucks, and they were told, listen, people don't come here for you. They come here for comedy. So if you don't want to do it, I'll just hire someone else. And pretty much just them betting on scabs, right? Like they're kind of betting on there being enough of a supply of scabs in order to, block the comics from actually demanding any kind of fair wages for what they're doing. And I just wonder though, going forward, like what are we going to do to prevent that? Like what are we going to do to create actual solidarity amongst comedy? Because comedy, especially stand-up, is very hierarchical. At the end of the day, it depends on where you are in terms of your progression as a comic, right? If you're a year or two in compared to 12 years, you're not on the same level. Like
that's why it was like, with what you're never going to get everyone united like 100%. Maybe I don't know. COVID's going to teach us multiple lessons, but that's why like we've been following the path of like trying to create an infrastructure. So by widening the opportunities, for example, everything from every time we go to Ottawa and we lobby with the Department of Heritage, the Canada Council for the Arts. We created this foundation. I think Amish, do you know that we created a foundation?
No, tell me.
So we created it's a not-for-profit foundation called CanCom, much like how like it's a legacy foundation like Factor. So that funds music. So it's like it would be a fund just for comics to access. So in fact, when this new money that was introduced on last Friday from the federal government, because they started introducing sector-specific stimulus, they announced $500 million for arts and culture, which is like $150 million for sports, $300 million for arts and culture, and $50 million for Canada Arts Council. And so my MP Julie is like, you got to listen. Like we talked on Friday just before the Prime Minister spoke, and she's like, you really need to listen to him today. I'm like, okay. And then we listen. It's like, oh, that sounds great, but how do we guarantee that this money is going to actually come to comedy? So now we're having a call with the Department of Heritage tomorrow. Yeah. What we did, we sent them a letter asking for $1.5 million to go to CanCom. That we would distribute immediately to comedians now while we're under quarantine, so that they can work on their projects. Now that's an ask. Will it happen? But that's the whole point. Is that even in this time where this money is being allotted, how we've historically never been able to access that money. Same thing with comedy clubs and venues, because my MP wants to start talking about recovery. Mm-hmm. So right. Venues, and she's like, so the government introduced these loans that they've given bars for the first time, for example. Wow. And then, but a loan is going to only really help them to pay their rents, but a loan's not going to be the same kind of support that a theater gets. And so my question is, and my ask is, tomorrow when we talk, how do we ensure that comedy venues are at the same level as a theater?
Yeah.
They are a cultural venue. You might have the perception that they're not, like whatever you think they are, my conversation.
No. We are artists, right? And and part of our art is that we pretend it's casual, but that's actually a favor that we're doing for the audience. So it's like, we're art, man. It's not just because we make it look casual doesn't mean it's even when you watch that Chris Rock clip where it's like his specials, they're rehearsed over and over and over again. He has writers, like it's, it is real art, and it deserves money if everyone else is getting money.
And
for sure.
Whether you believe it's an art or not, it doesn't even matter. That's a secondary conversation. The truth is, it deserves support, which is one of the first things my MP said, Julie, like way back when, because look at all the industries in our country that get massive government. Every industry, almost every industry gets support. The industries that have the most power have the most support.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Oil, gas, mining.
You guys are maybe if you look into how a lot of our economy is based on the service sector, right? And stand-up being, held in a lot of bars and a lot of cabaret spaces that do provide service. It is a service industry. It's part of the service industry. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're a big part of that, right? We're a big part of what the economy runs on.
We're providing laughter. That's a service.
We're the reason why people go out on a Friday night. We're the reason why.
We're very much like musicians. Like, we're the same.
Yeah.
But even though they will, they have a lot of issues as well. But when you look at the amount of money they receive, they are at the top of the chain. Music gets the most money. There's so many. They deserve it. I'm just saying, it's a strong lobby.
No, we do too, though.
But like we've been talking to SOCAN, which is the equivalent of Sound Exchange in Canada, much better. Once we formalize this relationship with them, like, we're going to encourage people to sign up with SOCAN versus Sound Exchange, number one. But they're going to help us lobby for copyright and all these things. We've had a couple of meetings with them, and they wanted to know, like, what's going on in your industry. They said that comedy is the equivalent of what music was like in the 60s in Canada. When we told them everything that was going on, it's like, when you talk about, when people listen to what exists and what we've put up with, this is not a
no, it makes total sense.
It's a bootleg.
Yeah, makes total sense. I mean, music just fought it earlier, and now it's our turn. We just got to fight for our thing. It's crazy because back in the day, even lawyers and doctors, like, they weren't respected, and they didn't have, like, their high pay and high status until they got together as a group and started making these, like, just these things where they would even lobby, or they would create more standards to get in, and that's where they had to basically make their own respect.
Yeah, there's strength in solidarity, and I think that's the issue with comedy. Is for too long we've been balkanized just by the bare fact that there is no solidarity. Like, there is 100% there is, like, within the community, but within the actual, like, economic sense of the community, no, there hasn't really been, and that needs to change. And that's really, as I said, I told you this before, Sandra, but I think it's really commendable because you're using your citizenship to actually, invoke change within the culture, where a lot of people, they have their citizenship and they use it to go to the food court. You know what I mean? They don't use it to do much more than, check out New York fries. So it's great. It's great to see what you're doing.
It's God's work. It's God's work.
I'm craving fries, guys. Like, my mom makes good fries, but it's like, I'm dying for fries.
What do you like? Do you like a sturdy fry, or do you like a weak, kind of thin, wispy kind of fry? What kind of fry do you like?
I like all of them as long as the potato's good.
Fresh cut. No?
Potato.
But I don't like when they put a coating on it. Do you like the coating on it? Yeah, Yukon.
What is it?
You like a Yukon Gold, a russet?
Yeah, if it's a good quality potato, not a McDonald's potato.
Yeah, and no batter. How do you feel about
Desiree? I like a Desiree potato.
What's a Desiree potato?
I don't know.
Those little ones. Those little ones, those Desiree potatoes?
Oh, the little cuties.
You roast them? I love them.
I like a battered potato. Are you kidding?
You like battered? I don't like battered, I find. I don't like Harvey's. I don't like that Harvey's does a batter on it sometimes. But I like fresh cut. I think fresh cut's the best kind of fry.
Yeah.
I like a really wispy, like, no constitution, kind of like it's wasting away kind of a fry.
Like a soggy McDonald's, like a soggy long McDonald's one.
That's not even soggy enough. I used to go to this Portuguese place. They gave you like a bag of fries and it was just mush. I loved it. I loved it.
That's so gross, dude. Mushy fries?
Just
I like them crispy. I like them crispy. Fresh cut, and then the edges break, and then it gets extra crispy. I know. I like the crispy. The crispiness is the best way to store the oil. You're storing oil in the sogginess. I don't like it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm dying for.
Sandra's with me on that.
Well, I can still go get fries. I haven't eaten out since all this happened. I mean, I don't.
It is weird to get fries right now, though. I don't know.
Have you been doing anything to quote unquote better yourself since you've been in quarantine? Have you been working on anything? Working out, doing some language learning, anything like that?
Yeah, like, I mean, I always meditate and do yoga, so that.
Yes.
You should join our practice. You should do a weekly practice we have a guide.
We have a Babaji.
Oh, right. You told me that.
We have
you want to come this Wednesday?
Where do we go?
On Zoom.
1 p.m. Wednesdays.
1 o'clock.
You can meet Kim.
I think I should be able to make it. I think.
Yeah, great meditation.
All right, we're gonna invite you. We'll send the invite.
Come to the meditation. It's great meditation.
Yeah, I do all sorts of like stuff. I mean, what have I? I've been doing some videos. I'm starting a new podcast on Thursday.
Nice.
What's that about?
I saw it. The soft left.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah, I saw it.
What's that about?
Like politics. You gotta bring us on.
Let her explain.
Right now it's like there's 5 of us, and I mean, it depends how it goes Thursday. Like, I kind of I want to keep it like, I think there's something about the 5 that will, I'd like to, we'll see how it works.
It's a good crew. Where are you guys going to record it? You guys going to do like Zoom, not Zoom. You can do Google Hangouts maybe, right?
No, we're going to do it on Zoom, but it's going to broadcast on YouTube, and then it's going to live on YouTube. We tested it out today, so it's
Sick.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Did you have to pay for the Zoom account? Because ours cuts off at 40 minutes.
I did pay. I'm like,
okay.
Yeah, I did, because I'm like, I don't want to fuck it up.
Sandra, next time you call us, and then you can just record it. Put it on the CASC account. No, but once you pay for it, it's like unlimited. Once you pay for it, it's unlimited.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, so just trying to do stuff like that, and
yeah,
I got a couple of other. I mean, just trying to do videos and stuff. So that's new. You know what I mean? Trying to do videos and stuff like on my own. I don't know, like what else? Yeah, that's kind of well, and also it was very busy, especially initially, like with CASC. So I was it was a real challenge for me to try and work on my own shit, which was
yeah.
Okay.
Which is always my challenge since I started doing this work. It's always been.
Yeah. It's hard to stay motivated. That's why I know I've signed up for some classes too, because then you have to go. So I started Wim Hof today, and amazing. I started Steezy, which is this hip hop dance class. Woo! It's so good.
Amazing.
Dances, Sandra, and they start you off like so like basic steps.
Great.
Yeah, Steezy.co. It's like a hip hop one, and then so. Are you into like any guided trips or any kind of meditation where you do like body sensation and then you start doing like, were you into that astral projection and all that stuff?
I just mostly do
white. You do loving kindness. Sorry.
White tantric meditation.
White tantric.
Which is Kundalini, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
And then I use these mudras, Buddhist mudras, where like if my liver's been an issue for a while, but it's a lot better. But it's like I felt my liver yesterday in my gallbladder, so before I went to bed, I just hold these do a certain breath, whatever they say, and then it just helps with the organs. So I just if it's my heart or like whatever it is, I will always, and I do that stuff. So I'm always doing like a meditation.
Nice.
Is that what got you into? Was your liver what kind of got you into meditation and like wellness and everything like that? What was your catalyst?
I mean, I guess it's funny that you say that a liver, like the liver. I was working at Tony and Tina's wedding at the Second City. I don't know if you guys know that show. It's
yeah, nice. We did a Brown show called Paul and Priya's Wedding, like years after that. Yeah. But it was like
a bunch of people were going to the chiropractor down the street, and so I started going. And I remember the chiropractor there telling me, she pointed out like I'd feel this pain on my right side, and she's like, that's your liver, and I'm like, oh. And so then I was like, oh, okay, and then I would see how it would react, like if I drank too much. So I've always, I think it was, I mean, it is your, according to the Chinese, it's the master organ.
The liver.
Yeah, it rules it all.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Master.
And then one of the chiropractors that joined there, she is still my chiropractor because I had an appointment with her this morning. She was teaching yoga, and that's how I started doing yoga, was because of her.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
But then after, like, it was Hatha that she taught, and then I remember there was just like this one studio I used to live in, and they were teaching Kundalini, and I just was like. And then I was like, oh, there's something here. And then I don't practice any other yoga except that.
Kundalini's hot right now. And tantric stuff is I think it's growing in this pandemic a little bit. I think people are like getting their practices out. Like people are like talking about it could just be me too getting into it. And then, how YouTube just starts advertising it to you.
People are turning to meditation. They are, because
meditation is getting hot right now for sure.
A couple of years now. Yeah.
But it's like, this is why the yogis came here in the 50s, because they knew that now everyone would be fucking confused, and not know what to believe in, because there is nothing to believe in.
Or if you're Bikram, you wanted that Rolls Royce and you saw an opportunity.
Yeah.
That documentary, that was unreal.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
What a creep. But I love Wild Wild Country. That guy, still legit, by the way. The Bhagwan's still legit. Osho, nobody questioned. Like people still read his books. He's he's amazing. I think he just put it all on the wife. I think he ended up just pinning it on the wife, and everyone's still down with Osho.
I mean, it's like a lot of these sort of guru types. Like, there's been a lot of I follow a guy named Muji, and he's like this.
Yeah.
You know Muji?
Right. Oh, I know Muji. Muji's incredible.
Amish is deep in it. Amish is deep up in it.
I'm in it.
He was recently, I don't know if you saw, somebody wrote a book about sexual allegations against Muji. Same thing with Yogi Bhajan, who brought Kundalini Yoga out of secrecy.
I know Yogi Bhajan. Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were both accused of that kind of stuff.
All these people, it's like a lot of these people are. I mean, here's the thing. I think what happens, and this is why, like, even when it comes to Kundalini, like I practice it at the YMCA because it's one of the few places that you can. Now, there's a couple of ashrams, but I don't really like going to them. I mean, just the same reason I don't like really going to a yoga studio. I like doing it at the YMCA because everything else is going on. What happens to a lot of these things is that people become devotional, like we saw with
Right.
like with Bikram, and they praise, like even with Muji. Like Muji says, "Don't praise me, I'm not God." But then people do, and then they're just like they're so devotional, and then they get taken advantage of, and whatever it is. I mean, we all got taken advantage of. So I think it's like, I don't know why people would be surprised that one of these gurus is like, why they just would be surprised, and like that they would get so upset that that person they're just human. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, everyone always says, whatever the teachings are pure, the person wasn't pure. Well, who the fuck ever told you that they were?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Hey, man, I'll tell you this. The Bhagwan, to this day, those girls love him, man. They're in the documentaries today just being like, the Bhagwan. I laid my head on his lap, and I could feel his penis right there. Oh, I love the Bhagwan so much.
Well, that's anecdotal. I think you're being anecdotal. That's one person.
I mean,
who knows?
There was like
who knows what everyone feels about the Bhagwan?
There's like 4 or 5 of those, and then some women said they came in married, and then nothing ever happened with them. Like he didn't push everyone to sleep with him. Like the guy from Waco, he did that. He said everyone has to have sex with him only. David Koresh. You guys remember that whole holdout? Like that guy sort of called and he's like, at some point, and this is after everyone joined. He's like, hey, I had a dream yesterday. According to the dream, no more sex, but I will take the burden of sex for all of you. And so everyone, he's like, can you believe what I'm doing for you guys? It's such a good show, man. It's pretty tight. It's got big actors on it. And then you were saying about the deep state. So go ahead, Drew.
You're not going to go the Koresh route then?
No, come on. I mean, they were down though. All of them, they all were like, yeah, of course. I mean, if you had the dream that said you have to have sex with women, then of course. And he was like, look at the burden I'm taking on for you. Yeah, he's a psycho. But the thing you were saying about the deep state, Sandra, this is one of those things where we're in this TV series, there's like the ATF and the FBI, and the ATF guy is like, he's like, hey, we can just talk them out of this. And the FBI guy just wants to shoot him up, basically. And it's like he starts getting paid. You just see the inner workings of this where the guy who wants to shoot people up, he's just getting more and more money. And then the guy who's like, okay, no, guys, we got to negotiate. We could have talked him out of this, whatever. That guy is just being pushed out of, like he's getting less and less money. And
what's the ATF?
The Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency.
Oh.
They showed them in the documentary as like they were underfunded and like they couldn't get anything. They were having a hard time getting shit done. But they were nice people.
They say that Silicon Valley is part of the deep state, which I so believe. Like, for example, this. So I just got a new iPhone when this thing came down because my iPhone was not charging, and I was like, "Oh, it's the charger," and then it was like, "No, it's the phone," and I'm like, "I better get a new phone because if shit goes down, this will be fucked." Great phone, great camera, but look at this, fucking falls every day, multiple times a day.
Very slippery.
No, but look, it slides off the other. Like I have a Mac. Look at it. You can't see. It just slides off. So these fuckheads design that slides off of each other and fall.
You gotta get one of these. You gotta get one of these contractor cases. Like
you gotta
I
get
have.
the rubber case.
I cracked my screen, so I have one of these contractor cases.
I had one from my old phone, and then I'm like, what? I got to fucking order. I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you get it. You make a fucking phone. It should come with a fucking case, and that's the end of the. You understand? You understand how
screen protector too. screen protector too. When someone's walking around without a screen protector, I'm like, what are you doing? Pay $5-10, get the screen protector on it. You crack that glass, you're screwed, man. A lot of these phones, they don't even let you fix it.
When you had the fucking phone that was plugged into your wall, were there accessories to that phone? No, the motherfucking phone came with the motherfucking phone, and it worked because of the way that it was.
That's it.
Okay? You see what this capitalist system does?
Yeah.
Creates plastic and garbage, and it's not sustainable, so it's dying.
It's crazy that we just have to throw these out every year, though. They're so good. They're incredible phones. They're incredible pieces of machinery. 1 year, it's like they're fucking with the programs on it. Deep
because
state.
look, they make them slide. It's like, okay, you want to replace, if there's things that will make it, you know, I don't know, like this is the whole point of everything. That I really believe that we would have been able to get to this level of technology, even though I don't believe we're more advanced than, you know, societies. Like, because when you look at Kundalini Yoga, for example, that they call it a technology, that technology is 10,000 years old. What they know, Western science won't know for another 500 years. So when you talk about technology, that's fucking technology. But we could have gotten to this kind of shit if we would have, because everything that I'm seeing too, it's like, you know, I'm maybe you know this, Henry Ford's first car, he designed out of hemp. Did you know this? And do you know what happens when two hemp cars collide? They go like this. They go like this. And they don't crash.
So the hemp car is coming.
Well, I hope so. But like at the time, Ford designed a hemp car, and the executives were like, no, we want metal.
That's insane.
So we could have gotten to this place, had we listened. This is what I think, you know, too, when I think about like our interactions with indigenous people when Europeans first came here.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, let's talk. And then, you know, even here in some of the old accounts where they were just like, you guys keep talking about the earth, enough already. What are you going to do? And the indigenous people are like, no, you're not listening to us.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's when it became like so separate. But if we could have done this, because when you're making this,
we could have done it correctly, like they do it in Avatar. If you ever watch the TV show Avatar, and sorry to cut in there, we only have 2 minutes left on this recording, so we could restart. We got to make a decision right now. But actually, I just wanted to say this one thing: the society you're talking about, Sandra. If you watch the TV show Avatar, it's a kid show. It's incredible. It's this different alternate universe in the East, and it's like they create those better futures where things are renewable and they're like more natural, and because all the in that world they didn't destroy all the tribal people. So the tribal people had certain places, and then there was like this corporate industrial people, they were over here, and they would fight, but then they would come to these balances, and they created a society that made a lot more sense. But we have less than a minute, guys. What are we going to do? You want to come back again? You want to do another recording?
Well, no, let's just say, Sandra, do you want to just give a shout out for what you got coming out?
Yeah, so Thursday got a new broadcast, a video broadcast called Soft Left, a political broadcast. I've got a show on Instagram called Sandra's Kitchen where I make food and do crazy like
Sandra's Kitchen.
Have some fun times.
Sandra's Kitchen. That's a great title.
I don't know what else is coming out. I think that a web series that I was in should be coming out in May. It's called Communist Daughter.
Amazing.
Okay.
Send us links to that, and we'll make sure that we include the links in the comment section of where we post this. And Drew, we got to go, man. It says less than a minute.
Yeah, this has been Let's Come to an Understanding. Thank you guys so much for listening again, and thank you,
Let's
Sandra.
Thanks, Sandra.
We'll see you guys
Let's
next
come
week.
to an understanding. Let's come 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 to an understanding.